So imagine for a second that you're baking this incredibly complex, multi-tiered cake. Like you do all the hard analytical work up front, you carefully measure the flour to the gram, you calculate the exact hydration of the batter, based on the humidity in your kitchen.
Oh, yeah, you're basically turning your kitchen into a chemistry lab at that point.
Exactly. The underlying science is flawless.
Yeah.
And it pays off, right? You bake it, you pull it out of the oven, assemble the tiers, and it looks like an absolute masterpiece.
Right.
But then, as you're walking it from the kitchen counter to the dining table to show it off, you suddenly start, I don't know, doubting your grip on the pan.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you hesitate, your muscles tense up, your foot catches the edge of the rug, and that perfect scientific achievement just hits the floor.
Which is devastating.
Mm.
But it's such a perfect analogy because the preparation was flawless. I mean, the chemistry is perfect. But the final delivery failed simply because of this sudden mental shift that completely corrupted your physical movement.
Yeah, and that exact dynamic, doing all the rigorous analytical work, but stumbling at the absolute finish line because your mind suddenly gets in the way of your body, well, that's what we're unpacking today.
That's a huge topic.
It really is. Welcome to this deep dive into the fascinating intersection of sports science and human psychology. Today, we are opening up an absolute masterclass of a source. It's the Puttalyze Mental Performance module. And our mission here is to discover why technical perfection in golf, and specifically putting, just isn't enough to guarantee success on the course.
Right, and how the mind ultimately controls that physical execution. The way you frame that intro is crucial because putting is almost universally viewed by golfers, and even some coaches, honestly, as a purely mechanical skill.
Yeah, like it's just about the stroke.
Exactly. We spend hours talking about swing path and face angle and grip pressure.
Yeah.
But what the Puttalyze system reveals is that putting is an integrated system.
An integrated system.
Yeah. It's physical, yes, but it's fundamentally perceptual, scientific, and most crucially, it's mental. Science provides the facts. It gives you the geometry of the green.
Yeah.
But your mind has to actually allow your body to execute those facts without interference.
Right, so let's start with the root of that interference. Because if putting is just physics, if it's essentially just a math equation of angle, friction, and force, why do we miss?
Well, the source points out this massive illusion that golfers fall for all the time. It's the illusion of technical flaws.
The technical flaw illusion, yeah.
Right. When a player misses a putt, the immediate, almost reflexive reaction is to blame the stroke itself. They assume they just pulled it or pushed it.
But the physical stroke is rarely the actual root cause of the miss in those, high-stakes scenarios.
Rarely. The text reveals that a player can accurately identify all the correct data points on the green. They can find the exact aim point, they can calculate the required target speed, align the putter flawlessly, and even produce a perfect practice stroke.
But then when the actual ball is there, they miss.
Exactly, because something physiological changes in that final half second before impact.
The real culprit is that the mental process shifts in the final moments, and that triggers a physiological response.
Right. The player steps up, they look at the hole, and suddenly they feel this spike of fear about, leaving the ball short or sending it way past the hole.
And so subconsciously, the brain sends a signal to just reduce the ball speed.
Yeah, or maybe they worry about missing on the low side of the slope, so the brain subtly commands the hands to steer the putter face. They simply lose commitment to the scientific calculation they just made a few seconds ago.
Okay, but let me push back on this a little bit, because if you're listening right now, you might be thinking, well, is it really fair to separate the mind from the body here? If I'm standing over the ball and I physically steer the putter with my hands did the steering. Isn't that just a mechanical mistake that needs a physical fix?
That's a great question. And it's a distinction that traps players on the practice green for hours. Well, if we look at the core Puttalyze philosophy, it says this. Science defines the task. Mental performance allows the golfer to trust and execute it.
Okay.
So yes, your hands moved the putter incorrectly, but why did they move incorrectly?
Right.
They moved because your mental intention changed at the last millisecond. The physical solution you calculated was 100% correct. The mental interference is what corrupted the physical output.
So the bad stroke was really just a symptom of a mental failure to commit.
Exactly. Fixing your grip won't solve a lack of commitment.
Wow, okay. So to prevent that mental interference, we have to look at how the brain actually builds the confidence required to commit. And the source really takes a sledgehammer to the way most of us think about confidence.
It really does. It's not magic, and it's definitely not a personality trait. It's science. We have this pervasive myth in sports that confidence is just a positive emotion.
Right, like you're supposed to just pump yourself up or
Yeah.
repeat affirmations in the mirror.
Yeah. Or just waking up feeling good.
Yeah.
But the Puttalyze system redefines it entirely. Confidence isn't a mood. It is the natural, inevitable byproduct of objective preparation.
Preparation creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence. I love that. But let's ground this in the mechanics of the system. The terminology used, like aim point, distance point, fall line, clock position, I mean, these aren't just buzzwords, right?
No, not at all. They are the objective data that actually build that clarity. Let's look at how they work together to basically eliminate guesswork.
Okay, so let's take the fall line.
Right. The fall line represents the absolute steepest gradient of the slope, so the straight uphill or downhill axis.
Right.
And then your clock position is where your golf ball sits relative to that fall line. So if the hole is the center of a clock and the fall line runs from 12 to 6, knowing your ball is at exactly 3 o'clock tells you that you are facing the maximum amount of break.
Right, and you use that geometry to calculate the aim point, which is the exact coordinate you need to start the ball toward.
Exactly. And the distance point, which dictates the specific speed required to actually hold that line.
So by calculating those specific variables, you aren't just standing there guessing how much the ball will curve, you actually know the math.
You know the math. And when you possess that level of objective scientific data, your uncertainty drops to near zero. And naturally, when uncertainty goes down, confidence goes up. You don't have to try to feel confident when you know your math is correct.
Which leads to what might be the most profound distinction in this entire mental performance module. Outcome-based confidence versus process-based confidence.
This is huge. Outcome-based confidence is incredibly fragile.
It's a house of cards.
Literally.
Yeah.
Because it relies on something you fundamentally cannot control. If your confidence is tethered to whether the ball actually drops into the cup, your emotional state will always be unstable.
Right, because you could hit a mathematically perfect putt, but it hits a tiny invisible spike mark around the hole and just lips out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you operate on outcome-based confidence, your self-belief just evaporated because of a blade of grass.
That is so frustrating. But process-based confidence is stable because it asks a completely different set of questions. It doesn't ask, did it go in? It asks, did I follow my routine?
Did I correctly identify the fall line? Did I commit to the target speed?
Right. Because the process is controllable. Elite golfers evaluate themselves primarily by the quality of that process. If they executed their process perfectly and the ball missed, they don't lose confidence.
Yeah, they understand variance. They know the evidence shows that if they keep executing that exact process over the long term, they will win.
But, okay, process-based confidence sounds incredibly logical in a textbook, but we're human beings. When there is like a club championship on the line, or you're trying to break 80 for the first time, how do you practically turn off the desire for the ball to go in the hole?
Well, that's the thing.
Isn't it just human nature to care intensely about the outcome?
Oh, absolutely. And you don't simply turn off the desire for the outcome. Instead, you redirect your brain's cognitive load.
Redirect the load, okay.
Yeah, the human brain can only hold a limited amount of conscious thought at one time. So, if you fill your working memory with hyper-specific, demanding process tasks.
Like calculating the math, visualizing the apex of the curve, tracing the entry angle.
Exactly. If you're doing all that, there is simply no processing bandwidth left for outcome anxiety. You essentially crowd out the fear with process.
That makes a lot of sense. So bridging the gap between having all this objective math on a scorecard and physically hitting the ball, that requires visualization and what the text calls phase separation.
Yes. Every successful putt relies on two clearly separated phases. Phase one is analysis.
The thinking phase.
Right. You gather your data, evaluate the slope, and make a firm mathematical decision. Then phase two is execution. This is the trusting phase. You commit to the decision and let the trained athletic movement happen.
And the fatal error on the course is letting these two phases overlap. You literally cannot be calculating while the putter is physically in motion.
No. If your brain is still negotiating the break of the green while your arms are trying to swing the putter, your tempo, your rhythm, and your phase rotation will all fall apart.
Total system failure.
Pretty much. The mind must finish its analytical job before the body takes over. Think before you step to the ball. Trust while you are over it.
And part of finishing that analytical job involves visualization, but the source points out a massive mechanical mistake almost every amateur makes when they visualize a breaking putt.
Oh, it's so common.
They picture the ball rolling perfectly straight, like 10 feet, and then suddenly taking a sharp turn right at the hole.
Which completely defines the laws of physics. From the millisecond the putter strikes the ball, it is subject to gravity and slope. It travels on a continuous decaying curve until it reaches the hole. It does not travel in straight lines and then magically hook at the end.
Right. And if you visualize a straight line with a sudden hook, you are giving your brain a false movement objective. It's like telling yourself, whatever you do, do not think of a pink elephant.
The classic pink elephant.
Yeah, your brain can't process a negative command effectively. It just focuses on the elephant. Yeah. So if you tell your brain to not miss left, or you picture a physical impossibility, your brain unconsciously fights the slope.
Right, which often results in a pushed or pulled putt to try and compensate for that bad visual.
Yeah.
Visualization really is the bridge between the scientific calculation and the athletic execution. You have to mentally trace that continuous curve.
So you have to see the apex of the break.
Yes, the apex, the gradual slowing of the ball, the exact entry direction into the cup. The mental image has to perfectly match the physical reality calculated by the Puttalyze system.
You're giving your brain a concrete, positive movement objective, like visualizing the ball arriving at the hole at exactly 3 rotations per second.
Exactly. And giving the brain that concrete objective brings us to how a golfer actually manages their attention on the green. To manage that focus, the source introduces this really interesting concept called the decision line.
The decision line. So it is a mental boundary, or even like a physical line you imagine on the grass behind the ball.
Right. While you are behind that line in phase 1, you are an analyst.
Mm-hmm.
You calculate, you consider options, you read the clock position. But once you step across that decision line and address the ball, the analysis is strictly over.
So you do not change your aim point. You do not second-guess your speed.
Never.
It's like handing in your final exam paper to a professor. Once you drop it in the tray and cross that threshold, you can't edit your answers anymore. The decision is locked.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And if genuine doubt suddenly creeps in after you've crossed the line, you don't try to just bravely fight through it.
Right. You physically step back across the line, ask for your exam paper back, and restart the routine.
Because executing a stroke while you are still negotiating with the decision guarantees deceleration.
So when you cross that line with full commitment, you have to manage exactly where your focus goes. And the text makes a really sharp distinction here between internal focus and external focus.
Yes.
So internal focus is thinking about your body mechanics, telling yourself to, keep your head still, lock your wrists, or swing straight back and straight through.
And internal focus is incredibly destructive during a performance. It is strictly for practice. When you are on the practice green trying to ingrain a new mechanic, sure, you use internal focus. But during a game under pressure, excessive internal focus destroys automatic movement.
So what is actually physiologically happening in the body when a player fixates on their wrists during a tournament putt?
Well, your body already knows how to putt. It is a highly trained automatic motor program. When you consciously try to control your wrists during a high-stakes putt, you actually fire antagonist muscles.
So you're creating tension.
Exactly. You are essentially overriding a highly advanced supercomputer with a cheap manual joystick.
I love that, a cheap manual joystick.
Yeah, you disrupt the natural rhythm, which almost always leads to a decelerating putter head, inconsistent face angle at impact, and just terrible distance control.
So the alternative is external focus.
Yeah.
You direct your attention outward toward the intended behavior of the golf ball.
Right. You focus on the ball rolling through a specific spot on the green or tracking along your selected start line.
By giving the brain an external objective, the body naturally organizes its joints and muscles to achieve that goal without conscious micromanagement.
Exactly. And to reliably lock in that external focus under pressure, the golfer relies on a specific cognitive funnel.
Right. The text breaks down the Puttalyze routine into 4 distinct stages that narrow your attention step by step. So let's go through them. Stage 1 is observation.
Yes. Your attention here is broad. You are gathering data from the environment, so the overall distance, whether the green is a stimp 9 or a stimp 12, located in the fall line. You are absorbing data without making any decisions yet.
Then stage 2 is decision. So the cognitive funnel narrows. You take that broad data and you select one single putting solution.
Right. You pinpoint your specific aim point and the required target speed. And singular commitment is required here because you obviously can't hit a soft putt with a lot of break and a firm putt with little break simultaneously. The physics demand you choose one.
Right. Choose your path. Then stage 3 is preparation. You narrow your focus even further here. You build the bridge between the decision and the physical stroke.
You visualize the continuous trajectory. You align the putter face squarely to your start line. You build your stance and confirm your balance, basically preparing your body to execute the specific decision you just made.
Which brings us to stage 4, execution. The cognitive funnel is now incredibly small. The routine is done, the analysis is over. You commit fully to the external target and allow the trained automatic movement to happen. No last-second adjustments.
This specific routine is your ultimate shield against pressure. The text points out a vital truth here, which is that pressure doesn't actually change the physical parameters of the putt.
Yeah, the distance is exactly the same. The slope is exactly the same.
Exactly. Pressure changes your attention. It pulls your focus out of the process and fixates it entirely on the threat of the outcome.
Which is why the text explicitly warns against trying to rebuild your stroke during competition. Like, under pressure, players start trying to control their body mechanics, basically reverting to internal focus because they desperately want to feel a sense of control.
Right. But you have to trust the routine. The external conditions change, the pressure fluctuates, but the routine acts as a constant stabilizing force.
And that stabilizing force allows us to look at the entire life cycle of a putt. The Puttalyze system maps this out into a really comprehensive 8-step model. It operates as a continuous cycle of performance and learning.
Yes, let's break down what a golfer actually experiences moving through those 8 steps. It starts with step 1, observe, and step 2, perceive.
So what is the practical difference between those two on the course?
Well, observation is gathering the raw geometric data, like seeing the slope and the distance. Perception is interpreting that data accurately through your experience. A really common failure here is misperception.
Like reading it wrong.
Right. You might observe a slope, but perceive it as much flatter than it actually is. If your perception is flawed, every calculation that follows will be incorrect, no matter how good your stroke is.
So once you've perceived the environment accurately, we move to step 3, decide, and step 4, visualize. And this is where we marry the calculated speed with that continuous curve to the hole we talked about.
Which brings us to the critical threshold. Step 5, commit. Commitment is the total acceptance of the decision and the visual picture.
Because a lack of commitment results in those micro-hesitations in the nervous system.
Exactly. If you doubt the line right before impact, your brain will subconsciously apply the brakes, which leads to step 6, execute. This is simply letting the putter swing freely once commitment is actually secured.
And then steps 7 and 8 are evaluate and learn. And this is where rounds are mentally saved or destroyed, right?
Oh, totally.
How you handle a missed putt dictates how you will perform on the very next tee box. The source says you have to separate the emotion from the evaluation.
Which is incredibly difficult, but it's non-negotiable for elite performance. And the text doesn't demand you act like a robot and feel nothing. It says you must first accept the emotional response. Allow yourself to feel the frustration of a missed opportunity.
Right.
But once you've felt it, you must evaluate the performance objectively. Do not ask emotional, unanswerable questions like, why am I so terrible at reading greens?
Yeah, you have to ask measurable questions based on your process. Like, did I correctly locate the clock position? Did I commit fully to the target speed?
Exactly. If you hit a putt that lips out, but you followed your routine, read the data correctly, and committed to your line, that is a successful process.
You evaluate the integrity of the process, not the sting of the outcome.
Yeah.
That is how players actually build resilience. Every single putt is an independent event.
The defining philosophy tying this entire mental performance module together is this. Science provides certainty, and mental performance provides commitment.
You really cannot achieve elite results with just one.
No. Science without mental performance is just unexecuted knowledge on a scorecard. But mental performance without science is just confident guesswork. Together, they create repeatable, sustainable success.
It really is a remarkable framework for golf. But it leaves me with a final thought to pass on to you to mull over long after this deep dive ends. The source material today focuses entirely on optimizing a golf stroke. But human brains are hardwired everywhere to seek outcome-based validation.
Oh, everywhere.
We do it in our careers, in our relationships, in our daily tasks. We judge our days by what we achieved, not how we approach the work. If we applied process-based confidence to our daily lives, like evaluating our workday by the quality of our decisions, the thoroughness of our preparation, and our focus, rather than the unpredictable outcomes or the sudden bad bounces we fundamentally can't control, how much more resilient and confident might we become in everything we do? If you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us continue producing evidence-based golf education for golfers and coaches around the world. If you have a golf question, topic idea, or challenge you'd like us to research, test, or explain, please leave a comment, contact us on LinkedIn, or send us an email. If you're ready to improve your putting performance, join our 30-day Puttalyze Green Reading and Putting Certification course, where you'll learn green reading, speed and distance control, set up alignment, aim, stroke mechanics, and a proven system for reading greens with greater confidence and consistency.